What's up, YouTube? Before I get into the video, let me remind you, if you like my content, hit that like and subscribe button, and also if you feel the need to support me, hit me up on my Patreon at patreon.com/uncommonramen, capital U, capital R. I do all this in my free time, so any amount of support can help me bring more of this content to you more often. Alright, without further ado, the final Kellan. Or at least I hope it's the final Kellan. I mean, there's a chance we see it in Bloomborough, right? We'll see. Anyway, this is Kellan the Kid. If you've been watching my previous videos, you know I did a deck tech for each different Kellan, and I told myself, well, I guess I told you guys, that if a new Kellan were to release, that I would do a new Kellan video. So here is Kellan the Kid. This is a Bant deck tech, so green, white, blue. This is a 3/3 with flying and lifelink. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you may cast a permanent spell with equal or lesser mana value from your hand without paying its mana cost. If you don't, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So we're going to be doing some shenanigans with Foretell and all that fun stuff. We're going to look at creatures first. Okay, we got Apex Devastator. This is 8 and 2 green for a 10/10 with Cascade, 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 Cascade. We have Augur of Autumn for 1 and 2 green. This is a 2/3. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play lands from the top of your library, and if you have Coven, you may cast creature spells from the top of your library as well. Got Battle Mammoth for 3 and 2 green. This is a 6/5 with Trample. Whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. Has Foretell for 2 and 2 green. Got Beanstalk Giant for 6 and a green. This is a star. Beanstalk Giant's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. And it also has an adventure, Fertile Steps, for 2 and a green. This is sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Okay, next up. Birds of Paradise for 1 green. This is 0/1 with flying. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Brazen Borrow for 1 and 2 blue. This is a 3/1 with flash and flying. Brazen Borrow can block only creatures with flying. And it has an adventure, Petty Theft, for 1 and a blue. It's an instant return target non-land permanent to an opponent controls to its owner's hand. Sorry about that. Chulane, Teller of Tales for 2, a green, a white, and a blue. This is a 2/4 with vigilance. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card, then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. For 3 colorless, you can tap this and return target creature you control to its owner's hand. Alright, next up we have Deep Sea Kraken for 7 and 3 blue. This is a 6/6. Deep Sea Kraken can't be blocked. It has Suspend 9 for 2 and a blue. And whenever an opponent casts a spell, if Deep Sea Kraken is suspended, remove a time counter from it. We got Doc Orlok, Grizzled Genius for 1 blue, 1 green. This is a 2/3. Spells you cast from your graveyard or from exile cost 2 less to cast, and plotting cards from your hand cost 2 less. Got Durnan of the Yawning Portal for 3 and a green. This is a 3/3. Whenever Durnan attacks, you can look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may exile a creature card from among them, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, and for as long as that card remains exiled, you may cast it. The spell has Undaunted. And then it has Choose a Background. We got Ethereal Valkyrie for 4, a white, and a blue. This is a 4/4 with flying. When Ethereal Valkyrie enters the battlefield or attacks, draw a card, then exile a card from your hand face down. It becomes Foretold. Its Foretell cost is its mana cost reduced by 2. We have Fiddlethip, Lost on the Range. This is 1 and 2 blue for a 1/1 with Ward 2. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, and the top card of your library has Plot. The plot cost is equal to its mana cost. You may plot non-land cards from the top of your library. Glorious Protector for 2 and 2 white. This is a 3/4 with flash and flying. When Glorious Protector enters the battlefield, you may exile any number of non-angel creatures you control until Glorious Protector leaves the battlefield. It has Foretell for 2 and a white. Green Slime for 2 and a green. This is a 2/2 with flash. When Green Slime enters the battlefield, counter target activated or triggered ability from an artifact or enchantment source. If a permanent or ability is countered this way, destroy that permanent. And it's Foretell for 1 green. Emoti, Celebrant of Bounty for 3, a green and a blue. This is a 3/1 with Cascade, and spells you cast with mana value 6 or greater have Cascade. We have Kellan, Daring Traveler for 1 and a white. This is a 2/3. Whenever Kellan, Daring Traveler attacks, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card with mana value 3 or less, you may put that into your hand. Otherwise, you may put it into your graveyard. It has an adventure, Journey On, for 1 green. It is a sorcery. Create X map tokens, where X is 1 plus the number of opponents who control an artifact. We have Kellan, Inquisitive Prodigy. This is for 2 and a green and a blue. This is a 3/4 with flying and vigilance. Whenever Kellan, Inquisitive Prodigy attacks, destroy up to 1 target artifact. If you controlled that permanent, draw a card. It has an adventure, Trail the Suspect. For a green and a blue, this is a sorcery. Investigate. You may play an additional land this turn. Lear, Disciple of the Drown. This is 3 and 2 blue for a 3/4. Spells can't be countered. Each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. The flashback cost is equal to that card's mana cost. Noble Hierarch for 1 green. This is 0/1 with Exalted. You can tap this for green, white, or blue. Rashmi, Eternity's Crafter. This is 2, a green, and a blue for a 2/3. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a non-land card with converted mana cost less than that spell's, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If you don't cast the revealed card, put it into your hand. Sage of the Beyond for 5 and 2 blue. This is a 5/5 with flying. Spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 2 less to cast, and has Foretell for 4 and a blue. Slickshot Lockpicker. This is 2 and a blue for a 2/3. When Slickshot Lockpicker enters the battlefield, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. This is Plot for 2 and a blue. Tatiova, Benthic Druid for 3, a green, and a blue. This is a 3/3. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life and draw a card. The Foretold Soldier for 2 and 2 green. This is a 6/6. The Foretold Soldier must be blocked if able. The Foretold Soldier can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. And whenever the Foretold Soldier deals damage, exile it face down, it becomes Foretold. Foretell cost is 1 and a green. The Reality Chip for 1 and a blue. This is a 0/4. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. As long as the Reality Chip is attached to a creature, you may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. It has Reconfigure for 2 and a blue. The 13th Doctor for 1, a green, and a blue. This is a 2/2 with Paradox. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It has Team TARDIS at the beginning of your end step. Each creature you control with a counter on it. Untap each creature you control with a counter on it. We have Tlinkali Hunter for 5 and 2 green. This is a 7/7 with Trample. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost of a creature spell you cast from exile. It has an adventure, Retrieve Prey for 1 and a green. It is a sorcery speed. Exile target creature card from your graveyard until end of your next turn. You may cast that card. Vega the Watcher for 1, a white and a blue. This is a 2/2 with flying. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, draw a card. And finally, Woodland Acolyte for 2 and a white. This is a 2/2. When Woodland Acolyte enters the battlefield, draw a card, and it has an adventure, Mend the Wilds for 1 green. It is instant speed. Put target permanent card from your graveyard on top of your library. Alright, next up is going to be instants. Starting with Beast Within for 2 and a green. Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. Behold the Multiverse for 3 and a blue. Scry 2, then draw 2 cards. Foretells for 1 and a blue. Cosmic Intervention for 3 and a white. If a permanent you control would be put into a graveyard from the battlefield this turn, exile it instead. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Foretell for 1 and a white. Counterspell for 2 blue. Counter target spell. Faithful Mending for 1 white, 1 blue. You gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards as flashback for 1, a white, and a blue. Heroic Intervention for 1 and a green. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Path to Exile for 1 white. Exile target creature. Its controller may search the library for a basic land card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Saw it coming for 1 and 2 blue, counter target spell. It has a foretell for 1 and a blue. Surge of Brilliance for 1 and blue, Paradox. Draw a card for each spell you've cast this turn from anywhere other than your hand, and it has a foretell cost of 1 and a blue. Swords to Plowshares for 1 white. Exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. Next up is sorceries. Alrund's Epiphany for 5 and 2 blue. Create 2 1/1 blue bird creature tokens with flying. Take an extra turn after this one. Exile Alrund's Epiphany. Foretells for 4 and 2 blue. Amanatu's Augury for 6 and 2 blue. Exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield. Until end of turn, for each non-land card type, you may cast a card of that type from among the exiled cards without paying its mana cost. Cultivate for 2 and a green. Search the library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards. Put one onto the battlefield tapped, the other into your hand, then shuffle. Doomscar for 3 and 2 blue. Destroy all creatures. Foretells for 3 and 2 white. Destroy all creatures. Foretells for 1 and 2 white. Farseek for 1 and a green. Search the library for a basic... No, it's not basic, is it? Search the library for a plains, island, mountain, or swamp. Put that onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. I believe that's what it is. Inspiring Refrain for 4 and 2 blue. Draw 2 cards. Exile Inspiring Refrain with 3 time counters on it. Spend for 3 for 2 and a blue. Kodama's Reach for 2 and a green. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards. Put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle. Make Your Own Luck for 3 and a green and a blue. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may exile a non-land card from among them. If you do, it becomes plotted. Put the rest on into your hand. Nature's Lore for 1 and a green. Search your library for a forest card. Put that forest into play, then shuffle your library afterwards. Raven Form for 2 and a blue. Exile target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 blue bird creature token with flying, and it foretells for 1 blue. Search for Tomorrow. 2 and a green. Search your library for a basic land card. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Suspend with 2 for 1 green. Next up is Artifacts. Starting with Arcane Signet. Cost 2. You can tap it for your color identity. 1 color from that. Chaos Wand for 3. You can pay 4 and tap this to have target opponent exile cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then put the exiled cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom of that library in a random order. Chimil, the Inner Sun for 6. Spells you control can't be countered. At the beginning of your end step, discover 5. Lightning Greaves for 2. Equipped creature gets Haste and Shroud. Equips for 0. River Song's Diary for 3. Imprint. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery from their hand, exile it instead of putting it into a graveyard as it resolves. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more cards exiled with River Song's Diary, choose one of them at random. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Soul Ring for 1. You can tap this for 2 colorless. Soul Talisman. You can suspend this with 3 for 1, and you can tap this for 2 colorless. The Key to the Vault for 1 and a blue. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may exile a non-land card from among them. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. It equips for 2 and a blue. Next up is enchantments. Starting with Case of the Locked Hothouse. For 3 and a green, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. To solve this, you control 7 or more lands. Solved, you may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may play lands and cast creature and enchantment spells from the top of your library. Elven Chorus for 3 and a green. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. Creatures you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color. Kellan Joins Up for 1 green, 1 white, 1 blue. When Kellan Joins Up enters the battlefield, you may exile a non-land card with mana value 3 or less from your hand. If you do, it becomes plotted. Whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. 1 with the Multiverse for 6 and 2 blue. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a spell from your hand or the top of your library. without paying its mana cost. Virtue of Loyalty for 3 and 2 white. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Untap those creatures. It has an adventure, Ardenvale Fealty. For 1 and a white, instant speed, create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. Virtue of Strength for 5 and 2 green. If you tap a basic land for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. It has an adventure, Guaranteed Growth for 1 green. Sorcery speed, return target creature or land from your graveyard to your hand. Next up is Jace, Reawakened. Planeswalkers. For 2 blue, this has 3 loyalty on ETB. You can't cast the spell during your first, second, or third turns of the game. +1, draw a card, then discard a card. +1, you may exile a non-land card with mana value 3 or less from your hand. If you do, it becomes plotted. And -6 until end of turn. Whenever you cast a spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. Alright, next up is non-basic lands. Quite a few. Alright, we got Bountiful Promenade. Enters the battle, or it's Crowdland for green-white. Breeding Pool is the shock land for blue-green. Canopy Vista is a check land for green-white that has basic land types. Breeding Pool also has basic land types. Command Tower taps for your commander's color identity. Deserted Beach is a check land for white-blue. Dreamroot Cascade is another check land for blue-green. Exotic Orchard taps for whatever your opponent's lands tap for. Fledged Strand is a fetch land for white-blue. Glacial Fortress is a check land for white-blue. Hallowed Fountain is a shock land for white-blue with basic land types. Hinterland Harbor is a check land for blue-green. Misty Rainforest is a fetch land for blue-green. Overgrown Forest or Farmland is a check land for green-white. Prairie Stream is a check land for white-blue that has basic land typings. Rejuvenating Springs is a crowd land for blue-green. Reliquary Tower taps for colorless and you have no maximum hand size. Sea of Clouds is a crowd land for white-blue. Seaside Citadel is a triumph for green, white, and blue, enters tapped. Spar's Headquarters is another triumph for green, white, and blue, enters tapped, can cycle, and has basic land typings. Sun Petal Grove is a check land for green-white. And Temple Garden is a shock land for green-white that has basic land typings. Alright, basic lands. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 forests. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 islands. And 1, 2 plains. So that's Kellan the Kid. It's kind of a fine balance of playing cards from exile and then using Kellan's ability to either play extra lands or play more value on the table. There's a lot of different ways to play from exile. Plot, Foretell, Cascade, Suspend. Using things like one with the Multiverse and Elven Chorus to just play cards from the top of your library. Flashback to play cards from your graveyard. So there's a ton of ways to activate the ability. And really just outvalue your opponents, hopefully. But I've never played it, so I wouldn't know. At least not yet. I'll let you know when I play it. Anyway, if you have any comments, leave those down below. Keep it positive. I will remove negative comments. And, yeah. Until next time, guys. Peace.